Hi guys, today I will take you on a trip to the past. Hello guys, today we'll visit this relatively intact fragment of Europe's past, which contains rich medieval history. By the end of this video, you'll get to know how the Vikings attacked the Canterbury Cathedral and maybe get a glimpse of how life was back then in the Middle Ages. So sit back and enjoy the beauty and majesty of this gothic-styled cathedral. Let's go. It's a 20 to 25 minutes walk from the university campus to the city center where the cathedral is located. You can always take a bus, but I prefer walking. So let's go. Hello, University of Kent.
Okay, so I'll just have a look at the inside.
Yeah. Thank you. The Canterbury Cathedral is one of the oldest and most famous Christian structures in England. It forms part of a World Heritage Site. This has been the cathedral at Canterbury since 597, when St. Augustine baptized the Saxon king Ethelbert. The Archbishop of Canterbury was the most senior religious figure in the land and he was based at this cathedral. Its importance as a center of pilgrimage greatly increased after the murder of Thomas Becket there in 1170. 14,000 years old cathedral standing over 236 feet tall. The city has a unique charm with past and present, sitting comfortably side by side. Canterbury Cathedral became a very special place visited by thousands of people each year. It was originally built when peace prevailed after 100 years of Viking invasions. It became a key medieval institution revered as the Mother Church in England. Canterbury was sacked in 1011 and the Archbishop Alfege was captured and taken prisoner to Greenwich. He was murdered before becoming a martyr after his death the following year. The parish of St. Alfege in Whitstable tells the story of how the Archbishop had refused to give up Canterbury to the Viking raiders. Alfege became Archbishop of Canterbury in 1006 and had been a central figure in converting Dane raider Olaf to Christianity following earlier raids. But when the Vikings returned 5 years later, the city was pillaged and the central cathedral set alight. To end the siege and release Alfege, the Vikings demanded a ransom in silver and treasures to leave the city alone, which was raised, but the Vikings demanded more and took the Archbishop to Greenwich. Alfege refused to pay any more, saying the people of Canterbury would not give a penny and he was kept prisoner. During a drunken feast in April 1012, a band of Viking warriors pelted Alfege with ox bones before felling him with an axe as he refused to give up the Kentish people. His body was returned down to Thames to Whitstable in 1023, where he was transported and buried at Canterbury Cathedral. He was made a saint by Pope Gregory in 1078. An interpretation of Saxon Cathedral in Canterbury features in the popular video game Assassin's Creed Valhalla. Canterbury Cathedral draws visitors from all over the world to its outstanding architectural features, stained glass windows, and magnificent carvings. It is also a place for prayer and contemplation, with first-rate choirs providing seasonal music. For 5 centuries, from 1070 to 1530, most kings and queens of England were crowned here. Another famous incident that took place in this cathedral was the assassination of Thomas Becket, the murder that shook the Middle Ages. The assassination of Thomas Becket in Canterbury Cathedral on 29 December 1170 changed the course of history. Becket was one of the most powerful figures of his time, serving as the Royal Chancellor and later as the Archbishop of Canterbury. Initially a close friends of King Henry II, the two men became engaged in a bitter dispute that culminated in Becket's shocking murder by knights with close ties to the king. It is a story of betrayal, the perceived abuse of power, and those who fall for standing in the way of the crown. As I stepped inside the cathedral, I gazed in awe at the breathtaking architecture. The stained glass windows and the detailed carvings speak a lot about the rich medieval history. This is the main body of the cathedral, which is called the nave. The nave is a place where people have gathered together throughout the ages. The nave is one of the greatest glories of perpendicular architecture, built by Henry Eveley. As we move forward, we see the Martyr Dome, the site where Archbishop Thomas Becket was murdered in December 1170 by 4 knights following his falling out with King Henry II. Becket's murder made Canterbury the most important pilgrimage site in England. Directly behind the Martyr Dome, we have the great cloisters, which boasts many stone carvings of animals, coats of arms lining the arched ceilings, and medieval heads. It also served to connect different parts of the monastery where the cathedral housed monks. Spend some time wandering around the different corridors. You'll be walking in the footsteps of the famous clergy and royalty that have travelled in the same path while enjoying a view of the cathedral that one can't see from the outside. The Great Cloister is also the only way to access the chapter house. A place where the resident monks would have assembled to discuss the cathedral's business and read from their Benedictine rule. It is the largest of its kind in all of England. The huge stained glass masterpiece is hard to miss when entering. The various scenes depict Canterbury history from the time of King Ethelbert until the days of Queen Victoria. Next we move on to the crypt. A crypt is a vault under the main floor of a church. The crypt is located underneath the choir and Trinity Chapel. Today it is a quiet place reserved for prayer. It contains the earliest surviving parts of the cathedral, built just after the conquest of England by the Normans of northern France. In the western crypt there are sturdy rounded arches and round columns which are topped with beautiful carvings. Originally everything would have been decorated in colorful paint. The eastern crypt was the site of Becket's tomb. His body was here for 50 years before it was moved to a magnificent shrine in the Trinity Chapel in 1220. Just above the crypt we have the choir, which is the heart of the cathedral, where many services used to take place, including daily evensong and the main Sunday worship. The benches on either side are called the choir stalls, and the cathedral choirs sing here. This part of the cathedral was rebuilt after a catastrophic fire in 1174. Choirs have been singing in this location since the cathedral was built, as this was the place reserved for the monks to sing worship. Then there is the Trinity Chapel, the highest part of the cathedral visitors can access, and it was built to house the shrine of Archbishop Thomas Becket. The stained glass windows around the outside of the chapel are called the miracle windows because they tell the stories of some of the miracles that have happened shortly after the death of Saint Thomas in 1170. This is the candle that burns where the shrine of Saint Thomas Becket stood from 1220 to 1538 when it was destroyed by the order of King Henry VIII. The dismantling of the shrine was a part of an attempt by King Henry VIII to vilify Becket as a traitor to the crown and erase his name from history. Clearly, in long term, this has failed. There are several notable tombs in the cathedral, but only one king is buried here. A viewing platform allows us to look down the tomb effigies of Henry IV, the first Lancastrian king, and his second wife Joanna of Navarre. On the opposite side of the Trinity Chapel is the tomb of Edward III's oldest and most renowned son, Edward the Black Prince, father of Richard II. Above his tomb are suspended his gauntlets and surcoat bearing the royal arms of England. This is the oldest cathedral in England, which is a grand historic place. It was created in the Middle Ages and has been around for centuries. The Canterbury Cathedral. I hope you all enjoyed this video, and if you did, please leave a comment, share this video and drop a like. Do subscribe to my channel for more such videos.